Hello everybody, Joe the Lawyer here, and thanks for watching. Hey guys, so recently I released a big video. It was pretty big, like 3.5 hours, and it was my deep dive into all aspects of the OSR, like every aspect of it, every little part of it. And it's gotten a great reception, but I realized that, 3.5 hours is pretty big for most people to sit there, even though it's broken up into chapters. So I had an idea, maybe I'll just put this out in pieces. That each main part has a separate piece, and that way people can sort of digest it at their own pace. I don't have to worry about listening to a big long video, essentially. And by listen, I mean because I just talk and show these cool black and white art pictures from old school D&D, so don't have to watch or anything. But I thought it might be a good idea because there's a lot of people recently who got into the OSR, or were looking to get into the OSR, and they came from a 5e experience, and maybe they watched some YouTubers like Matt Mercer, Matt Colville, GDD, and and that's their experience, and they're hearing about this OSR thing from the sidelines, and they're like, what is it? I want to check it out. And so basically, I figured let me do this big video, and now I'm breaking it up into pieces for you. So. You're going to hear a lot of references to things, boards or blogs or links to this or that, and maybe references to products. I have a link page for everything I talk about, so you guys don't have to take notes at all or anything like that. All right, so just click. The link page is included in the description here, as well as a link to the big video if you want to just listen to this thing all the way through. I'm dropping it in like 13 chunks, I think it'll be. So feel free to take a look at that. And one really important thing, guys, is I got a little contest going with Eric Tankar. Whoever gets to 5,000 subs first, the other guy, the other guys got to buy a steak dinner and donate $100 to their favorite charity. So I definitely want to win a steak dinner because I'm doing the Atkins diet, damn it, and I like steak. So anyway, guys, if you could like and subscribe and share it around, I really appreciate it. That would go a long way toward helping me beat them. I would really appreciate that. So without further ado, enjoy the video, guys. All right, guys, home stretch. Chapter 11 out of 13. This is called The History of the Hobby, all right? Because, I talked, like I said, briefly about the history of D&D and how it affects the old school Renaissance and the OSR and all that, but there are other books out there that would really give you great insight, way to hell more than I'm going to ever give you here, about the hobby, where it came from and everything. They're really fascinating books, and 3 of them are by one author, John Peterson. He's the not official, but he's the unofficial official historian of D&D, the role-playing game hobby, maybe even games in general. Okay, so amazing guy. He went to original sources, interviewed like everybody and their cousin who's still alive. He realized he needed a record of this stuff. People are dying off, so he wanted to get out there, talk to people, get the original documentation, getting into your basement or your closet or your attic and find out whatever you had, even if it's a random ass piece of paper from when he worked at TSR or Judges Guild or something like that. And he really did an excellent job researching. So the first book I'm going to talk about is called Playing at the World. Now this book, I'm holding it in my hand here. It is 700 pages long. It's a history of, I'm reading from the cover, history of simulating wars, people, and fantastic adventures from chess to role-playing games. So that really is a good understanding of what the hell it's all about. It's about games and gaming, the history of it, where it all came from, everything you need to know. It's an amazing thing. Tim Kask, I think, and he did a recommendation in the back. And Games Magazine, Village Voice did a recommendation. Jeff Grubb, who authored Manual of the Planes, did a recommendation. I mean, CEO Wizards of the Coast, Peter Atkinson, former CEO Wizards of the Coast, did a recommendation. Peter says, it applies a higher standard of research than any other work on the history of the role-playing games I've seen. Check out the awesome book. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. If you're into the history of games, gaming, especially simulation, war simulation, D&D, I mean, it really shows you where, from chess to the dawn of role-playing games, everything about our hobby. It's something else. I look at the table of contents here. The rise of wargaming club, blah, 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 medieval fantasy genre, classes, the rules of the game, rules and immersion. It's conventions, everything you could possibly want to know about the history of games and gaming, leading right up to D&D. Really fantastic. Really a fantastic book. So I can't recommend it enough. It's a deep dive. It's a scholarly research book. It's not all about the jazz and pizzazz. You know what I mean? You're going to want to put your thinking cap on when you read this thing. Okay? The next one, again, same author, Game Wizards. This is the epic battle for Dungeons and Dragons. And this is basically Joe Manganiello. He says, Jean sets straight the canon of the tragic history of how Dungeons and Dragons and TSR were ripped from the very grasp of the man who dreamed them up. In other words, how Gary lost to D&D, how Gary lost TSR, all the drama. It's like a subset of his original book, but in way, way more detail. From the very beginning to when he was booted out of his own company. That's about 300 pages long. Really, really good book. Okay, that's more accessible to me. You know, I'm not into the history of everything. I want to know that. All right, so his third book is Slaying the Dragon. I'm sorry, The Elusive Shift. Slaying the Dragon is coming. How role-playing games forged their identity. All right, so basically this is about when role-playing games shifted. It's, again, a scholarly look at it. When games shifted from basically war games to role-playing games, and what happened then, and how it shifted into maturity, what we have now. All right, so he's like the D&D scholar, this guy, John Peterson. 3 books that he put out, all of them excellent. Okay, now another book called Slaying the Dragon by Slaying the Dragon by Ben Riggs. It's a secret history of D&D. It's a lot about the history of D&D, but it's interesting. It's more of a personal account of it. He writes it almost like fiction. You know what I mean? In a way, but he gets into, I don't know, it's like a story. He puts the history into a story, in more of a story form. It's way more accessible than a dry factual book. All right, so it's more of a story form. And some of the stuff I think he interprets in his own way as to what happened or what must have happened or what's going on in his head. That's how you know what's going on in his head, right? That sort of thing. So that's pretty cool too. Now, Judges Guild, all right? Again, not get into the drama and the bullshit, but Judges Guild, Goodman Games, I believe, put out a couple of books related to them. They're on Noble Knight only, I think, at this point. They are huge, huge books. They are like 11 by 17. They are heavy as shit. Highest quality production values you could ever imagine in a book. And they're all about Judges Guild stuff. One is the first one, Volume 1, Deluxe Collector's Edition, Volume 1. And basically what you're going to get in that is a history of Judges Guild. You're going to get everything behind the scenes, original papers and documentations and all that sort of thing. I'll read the table of contents to you so you get more of an idea. All right, so let's see. Goodman Games did an interview Bob Bledsaw, Old and New Judges Guild, Thieves of Badabaskar and Sunnyside. We have Judges Guild journals. The initial journal, you have actually full publications of multiple journals in here. They publish some adventure modules: Citadel of Fire, Thieves of Fortress Badabaskar, Teagle Manor, the Temple of Thesagus, and they give you some catalogs. And in this book too, there's also essays, a lot of essays from people talking about Judges Guild. Full reproductions, 11 by 17. That's Volume 1. Volume 2 is all about Janelle Jaques. All right, Volume 2 is all of her works from back in the day. She was prolific, and she put out the very best Judges Guild things you're ever going to see. All right. So a lot of essays, introductory articles, and then you get into the Dungeoneer, which is, I think, a zine that Janelle had back in the day. And Judges Guild journals, you have full reproductions of all of those. Essays by her, she recently passed. And then you're going to get adventure modules, Dark Tower, Caverns of Thracia, Books of Treasure Maps, and then, some concluding thoughts. So those books are fantastic. They're so beautiful. They're like tabletop books, but you never want to put it on a tabletop because if you spill a coffee on or something, you're going to kill yourself. All right, so these are just fantastic books as references for the history of what happened back in the day with Judges Guild from their point of view. All right, and Goodman Games still putting out books like I mentioned before earlier in the video a couple different times. Original Adventures Reincarnated. They're taking the old stuff and they're making it new again. You're going to get a book full of essays, sort of the same thing I just described. A book full of essays talking about the original whatever, Temple of Elemental Evil, Keep on the Borderlands, Dark Tower, whatever it may be. And then you're going to get the original Dark Towers in multiple editions and publications that they put out. Facsimile in there, and then you're going to get the 5th edition version of it. So if you want to run Dark Tower for 5th edition, boom, buy it. There it is. If you want to run Temple of Elemental Evil for 5th edition, boom, buy it. There it is. And the cool thing is that most of these books do not have PDFs. You got to buy the book. I think only the latter ones are you able to get the PDFs for. So if you want to buy them, hop on Amazon. That's the best place. I give it a link to the Goodman Games on Amazon there. not so much last, but second to last, Art and Arcana. That was put out by Stan Whitwer's brother, and I think in cooperation with Wizards of the Coast. It's a book of art all throughout the history of D&D, from TSR to current day. All the art and talking about changes in artistic style. They have full pictures of various bits of artwork from Lotus, Larry Elmore to modern stuff, like a lot of stuff you're seeing here, on the show here, the black and white stuff. I really enjoy the black and white art, but a lot of stuff you're seeing here, it's a beautiful coffee table book, beautiful slipcase. It's, I think, put out by Wizards, at least in cooperation with Wizards, but it's something you just sit down there and just page through and make sure there's nothing that's going to spill on it while you're drinking it, right? I think lastly, you gotta mention, in terms of history and reference and all that, go back to the older Dragon magazines, go back to the older Dungeon magazines. You'll see articles in there, that the first time you're ever going to see a barbarian class is in there, right? That's where you're going to see it. See where it came from, see where it's at now. You see the origin of various things, especially the first 100 issues. They're the hardest to get because they're the oldest, obviously, and I'm trying like hell to get them. I got a bunch of the pre-100 ones. I don't have a full collection because I don't want to get into that OCD trap, skipping rent someday and buying them all, right? But yeah, I don't want to get there, right? But the older ones, the older Dragon, the older Dungeon. Another magazine out there you want to find older copies of is White Dwarf. I mean, that was the magazine that was all related to desktop miniatures, put out in England. It was related to Warhammer, but they did have a lot of stuff in D&D in there, right? Because it was a definite crossover. So get White Dwarf as well. All right, so those are the cool resources you want to dive into to learn more about the history of the hobby, guys. All right, next section is going to be about movies and TV shows that are sort of inspirational. Maybe not D&D exactly, but things that are definitely old school, will inspire you in old school ways. Okay.